before these lines came out, I said I make it around Indiana minus 14. Someone DM'd me calling. He was like, "You're a moron. This line won't be anywhere near 14." Um,
You have a speakerphone in your recording office there because the entire market just went from 3.5 to 2.5 while you were talking.
Tom Brenneman's on the call. Castellanos is at quarterback. Come on now.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast.
All right, here we go.
What's up, Degeneration? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Week 11 college football betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host, Colin Wilson. Colin, we have the official start of the college football playoff this weekend with a game between Alabama and LSU. Shouldn't say official. I guess I should say unofficial, but these are the games that we still get. Ton of meaning still, even with the expanded college football playoff. We'll break that game down in just a moment, but I like the slate a lot. There's a lot of intriguing games and two really big ones in the SEC.
Yeah, I think, Stuck, the biggest fear that I had coming into this season was the term load management being thrown around like it was an NBA schedule where the last month, before the playoff wasn't going to matter. It's the exact opposite. We have so many knockout games on the slate. Like, you're done. 3 losses, you're done. I think the committee made it clear. I think we have 22 teams right now that are 0 or 1 loss. And that's going to go down. I mean, the number of 2-loss teams is going to go down. 3 losses, you're out. And we've got a lot of those elimination games. So this is a big podcast for us. But most of all, I'm in the trash segment. Like, I'm bringing something to the trash segment. And I think I just can't live with myself if I get kicked out of the trash segment. So I'm excited to go here.
Yeah, I got plenty of trash for this weekend too. Some kind of power 4 trash this week.
That's good since
But
we just went
I've
3-0. We killed it on the Mac, right? So we can go power 4 trash.
Yeah, I think did we hit on the new BCS episode? I think we hit every MAC game. You had 3 unders that hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Kent
And
State.
and Kent, I didn't even know Kent State was going to play this clown. He came in their 4th string freshman who's unplayable. What's his name? Rule
Yeah.
something. But he came in at the end of their last game, but they were getting blown out. I assumed it was just because they were getting blown out. But I don't know if they just decide. I got to look into that. I completely missed that news when I was writing my Mac manifesto. I kind of got the feeling that that was the case because the line started to creep up before kick. But I don't know. It's hard to get. Kent State info is very difficult to get. No one cares either. But I don't know if like they just decided to go with them or Ulikowski was hurt. I didn't watch, but Northern Illinois also got to the window, which was nice.
Yep.
Their offense is now healthy. They woke up and Western Michigan turnover regression came. The MAC race is going to be pretty wild. Speaking of elimination games, we'll talk about this new BCS. BG, Western Michigan, pretty close to an elimination game next week at Bowling Green. I like the Falcons to get it done. We'll see where the number comes out. But let's get right into it. We have 2 marquee matchups this weekend before we get into the rundown, which we'll cover, I don't know, 10 or so games, and then we'll get into the trash. We'll cover another 6 or 7 games, then we'll go 3 and out. Cover, I don't know, 25, 30 games today, as always, and we'll do it in an hour and a half or so. So let's start with Georgia at Ole Miss, 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Still feels weird to say, not CBS. Georgia at around a 2.5-ish point favorite. I personally like Ole Miss here. I took the 3. I do need 3. I mean, but here's the thing: like that, it's very bizarre NFL season in that, like, the college football is becoming the NFL at the top, like with the top 30 and the top teams. That's why I think you're seeing like the parity, and it's not there's like no parity in the NFL this year, and that's why I think you're seeing underdogs do so well in these high profile SEC games. I think they're 29-13 underdogs against the spread in SEC games. Not the biggest sample size, but I do think that there's the market in this particular game is implying that Georgia is, what, 6-ish points better than Ole Miss on a neutral field? I don't see that. And if you just look at data this year, Ole Miss has been the better team. Now, there's a couple things that I do worry about here with Ole Miss. One, it's the coaching mismatch.
Yep.
Lane Kiffin in a big game versus Kirby Smart in a big game. I mean, Kirby Smart has been automatic against the spread against ranked teams. He's 29-15 against the spread. He's 66%. The injury report is obviously something worth noting for Ole Miss. They have 27 players on it. I think Lane Kiffin is just playing games. I mean, but he has Trey Harris and Watkins, two of their best receivers, listed as doubtful. I assume he's just playing games they're going to play. I mean, this is their season, but I have to mention that.
Yeah.
And then does the Georgia defensive line just completely overwhelm the Ole Miss offensive line? That's the weak link. Does that occur just like it did in Austin against a Texas offensive line that's better than the Ole Miss offensive line? Those are my concerns, but I had to take a field goal here because, I mean, right now, Georgia's rushing attack, pretty underwhelming, and their passing attack is pretty lost, mainly because Carson Beck's just not seeing the field. Their wide receiver room, for various reasons, is not as talented as it's been in years past. But Carson Beck, he has more turnover-worthy plays than big-time throws. 4 turnover-worthy plays, no big-time throws the past 2 games. Last year, at this same exact point in the season, he had 2 times as many big-time throws. And he's really struggling under pressure. 36% completion percentage with 7 turnover-worthy throws under pressure. Well, he's certainly going to see pressure against Ole Miss. It's the best unit on the entire field, the most reliable unit. Might be the Ole Miss defense, which is shocking to say. They have 6 defenders with at least 20 pressures, number 1 in havoc. They're going to get to Beck here and force him to throw under pressure. Every week you can just count on him to make a couple bad throws that result in turnovers. I just can't trust him at the moment. And this Georgia offense, like, they've had just a couple spurts where they've looked great. Other than that, it's been pretty underwhelming. And I do think that this Georgia secondary is attackable. So I think you have to take the 3 here, even against Smart in a big game, even with the injury concerns for Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss has been the better statistical team this season. They're the more desperate team. If Georgia loses this game, still get the 2 losses and make the College Football Playoff, they would have to take care of business against Tennessee, Georgia Tech. Ole Miss, this is their season on the line. I think you got to take the field goal here.
Yeah. This has been a really tough game for me. So I watched every single second of Arkansas Ole Miss, and I knew that I wanted Ole Miss badly in this game against Georgia. And the biggest reason was I know what Georgia's going through on offense, and I know what Ole Miss is capable of on defense. It's a really good scenario for Ole Miss. But as I watched that Arkansas Ole Miss game, it was player after player after player on the ground. And this wasn't Lane trying to stop shit. I mean, they won by 80 points. It wasn't like Lane was trying to pull his old fake injury crap. Like, people were really getting taken out of the game. Running back was depleted. Henry Parrish got taken out of the game and with real injuries. So I paused myself on Sunday. There was a +3.5 out there. I wanted it. I wanted to just hit it until I was limited and, we're going to call the man, whatever. I wanted to hit Ole Miss really bad, but I couldn't get over the fact that I saw so many players fall down for Ole Miss with real injuries. And so I held until the availability report came out on Wednesday night. And I wanted to see what kind of junk was going to be in this thing. Trey Harris doubtful. Of course he's doubtful, right? He's doubtful every week. He hasn't played in a couple of weeks. But that didn't matter last week because Jordan Watkins had 5 receiving touchdowns. Huge. And the big reason of that is because they were talking about the running backs that have protected Jackson Dart, and Jackson Dart has time to find a new wide receiver because Trey Harris was 40% of the offense. He found Jordan Watkins. Well, guess what? Jordan Watkins, to everybody's surprise, is listed as doubtful on this availability report, had 5 touchdowns against Arkansas. What the hell is going on here? This is a joke. This availability report is a joke, but there's another name that kept me off this. Not Henry Parrish being out, not the running back Henry Parrish being out. Center Reese McIntyre is questionable for this game. How big of a player is he? He's in his 6th year. He's taken 615 snaps at center. And his backup sophomore, Bryson Sanders, has only done a couple snaps, I think 50 in his career. Um, uh, Nobody else can play center, and they're going to use the backup to play center if Reese McIntyre can't play. He's listed as questionable. Tell me how the hell Jordan Watkins is scoring 5 touchdowns. He's listed as doubtful, and Reese McIntyre is listed as questionable, and nobody saw this coming. So as badly as I wanted to play the 3.5, as badly as I want the 3 right now, I'm just strapped to this availability report till what, 90 minutes before kickoff? We're going to say like 1 o'clock Central. I got to start finding out if players are dressed and on the field, because if those guys were healthy, and I don't even need Trade Harris for this, like if it's just Jordan Watkins and Reese McIntyre at center, I'm playing Ole Miss. So, and you're right. I mean, you switch to the other side of the ball. Carson Beck, he's been horrific. 8 interceptions in the past 3 games, and you nailed it, Stuck, exactly where his issues are. It is when he drops back and there's pressure. Now, I know that you talked about the raw numbers of turnover-worthy plays. I think it's important to talk about his rate of turnover-worthy plays. Clean pocket, 2.7% turnover-worthy play rate. Pressure pocket, 10.3% of creating a turnover-worthy play. He has been horrific. There is a segment that Johnny and I did for Johnny's Intangibles on Monday, and it was about the film review was the fact that he saw a 3-man pressure front, a delayed blitz, 4 guys total, and he completely whiffed and just threw an interception right over the middle of the field. Like he is so lost out there right now. His visibility is 0. Ole Miss leads the country in tackles for loss by a large gap, Stuck. It's like by 20. Like they have 100, and like the next best team's like 77. So I don't know, like this Georgia offensive line, it's progressively getting worse in protection of Beck and creating holes for the running game. Now, Etienne is going to go here. He's not on this availability report from the Georgia side, but does that help? I mean, you're going to have to be able to throw the ball here. Ole Miss,
you can't run on Ole Miss.
No. And
Top
Ole Miss
5
is
every rushing metric.
They're 5th in pass rush. They lead the country in tackles for loss. They're really great. They have beaten every RPO quarterback that they've seen, so don't think you can get the running game going here. And Golding's nickel defense, they're 25th in opponent pass explosives. So I wrote this up for action. Everybody that goes and reads it, I say at the end, I desperately want Ole Miss, but I've got to have their center playing. I've got to have Jordan Watkins. If you want to keep Trey Harris, that's fine. Keep him out of this game, that's fine. But my ultimate bet that went in is Georgia under 27.5 points from a team total perspective. I think that offense is broken. I think Ole Miss's defense is legit, and I think what's going on with Beck is not going to go away in this game. I'm going to join you on Ole Miss, but sadly, we're going to have to wait for the Friday availability report. I'm going to have to wait till 90 minutes before kick. I don't know if I can take Ole Miss missing a center and another wide receiver and Henry Parrish out at running back.
Yeah, obviously things have changed if these guys are all out, but I genuinely believe that Lane is trolling.
Yeah,
Sankey, the SEC commissioner, came out and said he'd punish coaches for the injury faking, which is a direct shot at Ole Miss. Well, you know what I think Lane is doing? Faking fake injuries off the field. But we'll see. There's definitely some uncertainty. But when you see 27 guys, yeah, have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. All right, so no on the agree tab because you need the injuries.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to a true playoff game. Alabama at LSU in prime time in Death Valley. LSU catching 3 here. Again, common theme. I don't think this implies that there's close to a touchdown difference between these two teams. No, sir. I do not see it. I like the dog here at home. By the way, I mean, again, one of the things I'm worried about, just like the Ole Miss game, and I think both these games are going to be close. So it could obviously go either way, but I just think this is closer to a coin flip than a touchdown. Brian Kelly has been very good off of bye, 20-11-1 against the spread. He's also 28-13-1 against the spread, 68.3% as an underdog of at least a field goal. But this is big game DeBoer, just like big game Kirby Smart. So am I concerned that DeBoer, both these teams are off of a bye, is going to have a really good game plan here with a healthier Milroe? Yes. But here's why I like LSU. I've done nothing but fade this Alabama team all year. I think that they're extremely flawed, especially on the back end. Their secondary is ripe for the picking, extremely inexperienced. and really untested. And I've been screaming about this all year that their secondary is vulnerable and their pass rush is not elite. Well, I mean, look, Georgia exploded on them, and it's not like that's aged really well. Who else have they faced this year? Their secondary. Western Kentucky with a quarterback who's now been benched. Wisconsin with their backup quarterback who had to come in after the starter got hurt. USF, which missed countless wide open deep shots. Vandy, which put up 40 in an upset win. South Carolina, another not great passing offense that should have won in Tuscaloosa. Tennessee, whose pass offense is stalling, who beat Alabama. And Missouri with an unplayable backup quarterback. That's who they played. I mean, now you're going up against the top 15 passing offense with Garrett Nussmeier, a really good pass protecting offensive line, and you're going to get tested here. The one question is Garrett Dellinger, their starting guard, will be out. Is that the weak link here that causes this to crumble? Maybe, but it's not like Alabama has been completely dominant as a pass rushing unit. I mean, they're good. They're just not like who you think Alabama normally is. So I think LSU can move the ball through the air. Maybe, Caden Durham can also give them a little bit more juice and balance in the rushing game. They get 2 more weeks to work on the new run blocking schemes. But, I mean, this is an offensive line that gives Nussmeier a ton of time. I think they're top 5 in sacks allowed. He can beat this Alabama secondary. The LSU defense, it is improving on a weekly basis under new defensive coordinator, Blake Baker. Their defensive line, I think, is an underrated group that's getting better. Alabama's offensive line still has issues. And if you look at some of the underlying metrics, they are ugly. So I think that there's going to be some negative plays here that can kill drives. The one concern that I have is how many explosives will Alabama hit? Jalen Milroe still, I guess there's 2 concerns. That's one. Jalen Milroe is still an elite deep ball, and LSU aggressive defense, they're going to get some negative plays, but they're also vulnerable to giving up explosive plays. So how many of those does Milroe connect on? But it's not like this Alabama offense has been firing on all cylinders. The other thing is, does LSU or is LSU ready for the mobile quarterback? That's what burnt them against Texas A&M, but they clearly weren't ready for Marcel Reed. Now you have 2 weeks to prepare. I think in a way that works. It's the perfect scenario. They just got burnt by a running quarterback. Now you have 2 weeks to kind of prepare, make those adjustments. Will they be ready? Do they have the personnel to properly defend Milroe on his legs? Because Milroe should be a bit healthier here. I think he was dinged up, which could have been part of those offensive woes that we've seen for stretches this year. But I don't think that there's close to a touchdown difference between these teams again. This is a game that I think should be back and forth until the end. So I happily took the field goal. What are you seeing here?
I wanted to go against you. I can't. There's a better bet on the board, I think. And ultimately, I'm going to end up joining you, but I'm going to end up joining you live. So I did a deep dive on Alabama to focus on the 3-game stretch that really got them in trouble: Vanderbilt, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Can I connect the dots about what the hell is going on with this team? And the data point on Missouri, I just completely threw out. I mean, Brady Cook, all the injuries, forget it. Penalties and opposing offenses that just create first downs, control the clock, is the biggest issue for the Alabama defense. And then you look at the fact that they're 128th in penalties this season, 15 for 115 yards against the Bulls.
That was an issue last year, too.
Yeah, it's still an issue with the whole new coaching staff. Vandy controlled the clock for 42 minutes. I don't care how explosive you are. You don't have the ball for 19 minutes. And South Carolina's 62% success rate on the ground with Lenoris Sellers and Rocket Sanders. They doubled the national average in methodical drives. They were doing the same thing as Vandy. They're able to keep it on the ground, 2+ first down drives, play keep away from this explosive Alabama offense. And it's just worth noting that in all of these games, the Alabama defense has been fantastic to come out of the gate. The scripted portion of defensive coordinator Kane Womack has been unbelievable this year. In 4 of 5 SEC games played already this year, Alabama has shut their opponent out in scoring in the first quarter. You know who the one SEC team that did score on them in the first quarter was Vanderbilt. So I kind of throw that one out. Before the 5 games they played, no one scored on Alabama in the first quarter.
You'd also expect a good offensive script in this spot in a big game with DeBoer.
Absolutely. And I think that's the one thing that I focused on with LSU, because the loss to Texas A&M made me really go in and look at what are they doing in zone read concepts? What are they doing against mobile quarterbacks? Or is this a thing where you weren't prepared for Marcel Reed to come in and absolutely dominate you? You look at the edge rushers, Savion Jones, Braden Swinson, they are excellent edge rushers. They can get you, on passing attempts, they can get there. They grade very poorly against the rush. They grade poorly in holding outside contain. How much does that matter with Jalen Milroe and busted plays or maybe designed run attempts? Because Alabama runs a ton of zone read on the ground. How much is he going to keep that ball and try to get outside those tackles? And the Tigers, if you look at their run concepts on defense, they're great against counter. They're very good at holding their positions against counter, but they've been horrible against inside zone. I mean, they've just been torn apart. And, when you go to Nussmeier's numbers and you look at what he did against that Texas A&M defense, they're still a methodical. I like the passing game. They're getting healthier on the outside. It's still methodical. It's just short drops. And I think they're waiting for, full health before they start taking shots down deep. And plus, I mean, the level of defenses LSU is playing has been best in the nation. Alabama's 12th in defensive quality drives. They're at least limiting some teams and getting there. And Alabama's 13th in creating contested catches, which is a really big, important stat in college football that Sports Info Solutions puts out to show you if wide receivers have to break stride, if they have hands in their face. Like, it's a very important stat, especially in this game. Right now, Garrett.
But I will say that their schedule's been pretty favorable with who they've gotten to face, like the passing attacks. This will be a big step up.
But
like we saw Georgia throw it at will.
On the other side, Nussmeier is outside the top 50 in creating an on-target pass. So that does give me, and I know there's wide receiver situations. All in all, Stuck, I love Alabama money line in the first quarter. Womack hasn't let anybody except Vanderbilt score in the first quarter. Their game plan has been fantastic. I think you're going to get a better number on LSU after the first quarter. And at that point, if I can get, I project this game as a pick. I think the Alabama number is outrageous too. So for me, I'm taking Alabama money line in the first quarter, and you're probably going to see an LSU bet come in right when the second quarter starts.
Yeah, I'm close to pick two. I'm between 0 and 1. I don't mind that. I expect Alabama to win the scripted portions here, but I also don't mind LSU playing from behind, because I think that they can attack the secondary.
It suits their offense. It suits their offense to be in that mode.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to the rundown. Michigan at Indiana. I tweeted out last week before these lines came out. I said I make it around Indiana minus 14. Someone DM'd me calling. He was like, "You're a moron. This line won't be anywhere near 14." Well, it's at, what is that, at 14 and a half now?
Yeah, 14 and a half.
I make it around 14. There's nothing I can do here. I would lean Indiana if I had to play it. I mean, I'll show any value in the line, but it's Cignetti. I also think that there's, like, Indiana is just, they are dominating these teams until the very end. And Cignetti's one of the smartest coaches in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he knows that their strength of schedule isn't very good. Right. So, like, just blowing these teams out and getting style points, if they do finish 11 and 1, I think matters to them. Like it could end up mattering. So yeah, I don't want to get in front of this Indiana train. And if you bet Michigan plus 14 and a half last week, and you bet them plus 14 and a half this week, and you're down 14 late, you might get punched in the stomach again, this time by Cignetti. I think you do have a play on this game. What do you like here?
Well, Indiana, first off, 8-1 against the spread on the season. Sure, that's impressive. They have the largest.
There will be 90% of bets on Indiana. You'll see that.
Oh, yeah. But
they'll probably cover.
It's been a couple of weeks now where the numbers have just been outrageous from a ticket and money perspective, and Cignetti's just plowing. I think what's important, people need to know, if you think that this is the week to get in front of Indiana, 8-1 against the spread, largest margin in the country, and covering the number at 17.2 points. It's not even close what these covering numbers are. So keep that in mind if you think you want to fade. I am not fading Indiana. I'm going to go Indiana first half. They are going to go into a bye before their huge game against Ohio State. I searched for a lot of positive Michigan takeaways after the Oregon game. I mean, Davis Warren had 2 touchdowns that weren't to Colston Loveland. Loveland still had 9 targets. The rushing attack was still predictable. If I was a Michigan fan, I'd be pretty depressed about Orgy, Donovan Edwards, Khalil Mullings. They're limited against an Oregon defense that should have given up a lot of rush yards, and they didn't. I think the other thing that disappeared, if you look into the box score, Michigan's number one pass rush defense didn't produce a damn thing against the Ducks offensive line. 0 sacks, 5 hurries on Gabriel. The Ducks converted 10 of 15 on third downs. Their average distance was 4.5 yards. Like Oregon just dominated this defense, and pass rush didn't matter at all. And Indiana, and when you look at the Indiana side now going up against Michigan, they dominate inside zone too. I know it's a strength of schedule of 103rd, but right now they're a 65% success rate on defense and giving opponents a negative EPA that run inside zone. That's all Michigan does. More specifically, defensive interior Tyreek Tucker and edge Mikhail Kamara are both top 25 individually in PFF grading of all defensive linemen against the rush. Like Indiana should roll here. Rourke returned 4 passing TDs, never left the pocket. He had his thumbnail surgery. I'm sure they want to keep his hands away from defenders as much as possible to Ohio State. So you're going to see if there's Justice Ellison props out there, I'd take him. 4 yards after first contact, I would take an over rushing prop on him. Is Martindale going to blitz? Is Wink going to send this heavy blitz? I don't think it's going to have an effect. Indiana's second in havoc allowed. They're 11th in pass blocking. Indiana, first half for me, going into a bye. Ohio State up after that. I just don't think it's in Cignetti's best interest to be putting 50 up here. You want to cover this number 14, that's fine, but I'm just going to play it safe. I think Indiana's balls to the walls when they come out for this game.
Yeah, also, where's Michigan at mentally? So after losing to Oregon, everyone knew they weren't going to the college football playoff, but that was the nail in the coffin, right? Their third loss. And the week after, you're going on the road to Indiana. I don't know. I mean, I could see them coming out flat here, and it's not the most well-coached team. Big coaching edge for Indiana as well. Purdue at Ohio State staying in the Big Ten. I got nothing here. I make this 38. This will come down to, like, when does Ohio State park the bus? They should score at will.
Yep.
Are they a little flat? I don't know. I got nothing here. You have something here?
Well, I feel like the college football playoff has created a beauty pageant for anybody that's seeded 5th through 11th. There was mention of eye tests. There was mention of this, that, where we seeded this. I went in and read all the transcripts of what was said after the show went off the air. And I feel, and I think maybe Cignetti feels this way, that this is now a beauty pageant if you are not going to win your conference. And I think it would behoove Ohio State to do everything they can to lock up that 5th seed. And I think Notre Dame's also on that list too. Now, Notre Dame's playing Florida State with a huge, large spread. I think it's a beauty pageant for these teams that are ranked 5th to 11th. The last time Purdue hit the road, 50 burgers were given up to the offenses of Illinois and Wisconsin. Notre Dame put up 66 on these guys in week 3. Purdue overtime loss to Northwestern. They were outgained by nearly a yard per play. Northwestern had 8 explosive passes. What's Ohio State going to put up here? And does Ryan Day need the style points? I say he does. I think the bet should be on Ohio State, even though, the number's outrageous, but that's the bet.
I'm close to market on the number, but I think maybe we'll get our first agree tab here. On the agree column, we're 21-12 on the year. Kansas, +3 against Iowa State. This is... Let me see. Are there any +3 still out there?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be fair as we're recording. This game is. It's worth noting that this game is in Arrowhead, so the home field advantage is slightly diminished, and they're playing Iowa State. So what does that mean? That there's going to be a lot of what are the colors? They're cardinal and gold, I believe.
I will say this, I have family in Kansas City this weekend, and they cannot find a hotel for a youth soccer tournament because that's how many Iowa State. My family from Iowa is down in Kansas City. They can't find a hotel. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. But I like Kansas here. I know it's not the ideal that Iowa State lost, but they've been showing cracks. This team is, they can't really run the ball. That's important because Kansas's run D is really bad. How do you slow down Iowa State? You got to take away their 2 top receivers, Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins. Well, Kansas, that's the strength of their defense. They have two really good corners, Emelo Dotson and Kobe Bryant. So I think it's a good matchup for the Jayhawks. And then Kansas, their offense trending up, elite rushing attack, top 10 nationally in both EPA and success rate. A lot of that has to do with a really good back, and then also your quarterback, Jalen Daniels, and his mobility. He's also been playing much better as the season has gone on. They should be able to run on this Iowa State defense. They've been exposed on the ground a few times this season. A lot of that has to do with some of the injuries on the second level. And for me, the Big 12 is just like the SEC. There's not much difference between these teams. The underdogs are intriguing me every week. Lance Leipold, 16-7 against the spread as a home underdog. I don't have much difference between these teams. It's not a huge edge, but I had to take the field goal here because I also like the matchup. And this Kansas team, you got to remember, they could easily be in the running. So while Iowa State came back, they had miracle comebacks against UCF, Iowa. Kansas is 0-5 in one possession games, 1-6 against FBS teams with a -2 scoring differential. That's ridiculous. -2 net scoring differential, 0-5 in one possession games, 1-6 against FBS teams. Insane. They've been in every game. They've just been really unlucky with when turnovers have come. They're going to be in this game. I think you got to take the 3. You agree?
Yeah, I make the game 2. I'm on Kansas, but it's not because of the number. I'm on this game with the Jayhawks because of the way games are going for these teams in the last 2 or 3 or 4. Kansas is under pressure now. They have to win out to make a bowl. They know that.
Last hurrah.
And Lance Leipold has been very good off of a bye. He's won 4 straight up off of a bye week. And Devin Neal right here can break the all-time rushing record at the school with 7 more yards. He will eclipse 3,841 all-time Kansas leading rusher. Now, Kansas, if you look at their last couple of games, they've lost 2 of their last 3 by a combined 6 points to Arizona State and Kansas State. Absolutely boat race.
All on last-minute touchdowns, too.
Yeah. And then they absolutely boat race Houston,
who's beating everybody.
Who's now showing up. They exceeded the explosive drive national average mark in the past 2 games. The national average for success rate and rushing attempts nationally is 48%. Kansas in the last 3 games, over 60% on the ground between Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels. Kansas is hot right now. Who's not hot? The Iowa State defense is not hot at all. The last 4 teams, Texas Tech, West Virginia, UCF, and Baylor, all scored on their first drives. 3 of those 4 teams had a drive of at least 75 yards or more to score. Iowa State is not coming out and doing well in the scripted portion of the game. And they were struggling leading up to the Texas Tech loss last week. You look at last week, 1.9 points per scoring opportunity and finishing drives. They were stuffed on nearly half of their rushing attempts against Texas Tech. They're below the national average in passing down success rate. And that is the big thing here is Rocco Becht is not producing any kind of efficiency whatsoever throwing the ball. They narrowly escaped Central Florida. Explain that to me. A team that I've written off for the rest of the season, they narrowly escaped Central Florida. Central Florida plus 1.5 overall yards per play. Iowa State was not supposed to be in that game at all. And when you look at West Virginia, it was a 12-point win, but West Virginia won the yards per play battle too. I mean, it's Iowa State is not playing good defense. Rocco Becht is not throwing the way that he should. And Kansas right now feels the pressure to make a bowl, and they are playing.
And Iowa State can't really run it efficiently. That's how you just gash this Kansas D.
Yep.
And man, they've been so unlucky in some ways. That Kansas State game, they tried to field a kickoff at the 1, but they didn't step out of bounds in time. So they ended up getting a safety. They dropped the wide open touchdown pass. They blow the game late. I mean, it's been happening all year. They're fighting. Maybe another agree here. Utah plus 4 at home against BYU. I'll make my case. I mean, I make this number lower. Both teams coming off a bye here. And for the Holy War, it's going to be a raucous environment. Utah season's dead. They're 4-4. As far as what their preseason expectations and goals were. And by the way, Kyle Whittingham's 27-16 against the spread as an underdog of 4 or more points, 63%. I project this Utah plus 2. But the bye week, both teams coming off of a bye, and BYU's been really good. I have to tip my hat to them. They've beat me a couple times against the spread this year, but they have been quite fortunate. one of the games that did beat them was to Oklahoma State. They should have lost that game if Oklahoma State doesn't suffer some injuries and then give up that late touchdown in the final seconds. But why do I like Utah here? One, let's start on when BYU has the ball. Retzlaff, he's made some risky throws. He's gotten away with some throws. There's some turnovers coming. He's also struggled against cover one. That's what he's going to see a lot of against Utah. Utah going to play aggressive man on the outside. And the BYU receivers are pretty good, but they're not like your prototypical speedy man beaters. So I think Utah can man up here. And by the way, the bye week, I think, will benefit Utah more than BYU. BYU was rolling, had all the momentum, and Utah's defense has been getting no help from the offense, needed the time off. Their offensive coordinator stepped down in October. You had an interim offensive coordinator. Now you get 2 weeks to work with the offense, put in some new wrinkles. There's also the quarterback uncertainty. Is it going to be Rose? Is it going to be Wilson? Some of that uncertainty, I think, helps. Who's BYU going to prepare for, regardless of who's that quarterback? And you're gonna lean on Micah Bernard here, or Mekhi Bernard. I always say Micah, but it looks like Micah, but I think it's Mekhi Bernard. And that's what you're gonna do here. You're gonna hand in the ball. You're gonna shorten this game. You're gonna rely on your defense, which is top 10 defense, and you can run on BYU. 77th rush success rate, outside the top 100 in EPA per rush. That's what you're gonna do. And the BYU fourth down regression is probably coming. They're 15 of 18 on the season, and it's a bad third down offense. And now you're going up against a Utah defense that's number 2 in the country on third downs. They also have some positive regression coming, Utah. I mean, like, they're 8 of 18 on fourth down. They have a -4 turnover margin. I think you just have to take the points here. I think the points are super valuable because this will be, I don't mind the under either. I think Utah will be able to move the ball on the ground, grind this clock away, force Retzlaff into some mistakes, and I think they're going to have a good shot to win this game. What do you see?
You have a speakerphone in your recording office there, because the entire market just went from 3.5 to 2.5 while you were talking.
No way.
Yeah, I'm serious. I think you have a speakerphone in there. Completely agree. Took Utah +4 earlier in the week. Just so everybody knows, I make it a pick. I would still take it at 2.5. I'd try to get 3, but the Utah's going to be in the round robin. We're going to believe in Rice Eccles this weekend. And I think, you're right about the offense and what Utah is going to try to do.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It just got hammered.
It did. It did. I think it's worth noting that Mike Bahakian is the new interim OC. Just an unprecedented move for Whittingham to fire a coordinator mid-season. I think the key takeaways I got from the presser from Whittingham was...
Oh, no, I just wrote BYU down by accident. Are we doomed? Oh, my God. Okay, delete that quickly. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think it's important that Whittingham said during his presser that there will finally be a playbook for Wilson or Rose, whoever is lining up at quarterback, depending on health, that suits their attributes, because they've both been trying to run Cam Rising's playbook. So I don't really trust in Mike Bahakian. You look at Northwestern, you look at Boston College, you look at Tennessee. There's going to be
I don't care. Just hand it off.
Well, the problem is there's going to be some tempo. He wants all this lateral movement in the backfield, his plays. Like, it's just a lot of stuff that bothers me. But then again, I would not be surprised if Whittingham picks somebody out from the defense, a Sione Vaki type, and says, come run the ball. And then boom, we're all like, oh my God, how did Utah find this guy? I mean, that is potential here with this game. I think you're right. The handicap's on the other side, right? There's just so much noise in Retzlaff's numbers, like struggling with pressure, 7 turnover worthy plays, no big time throws. BYU is 102nd in creating uncontested catches. That tells me that Retzlaff is not accurate whatsoever. And Utah's D is elite against the rush and stopping methodicals. But the handicap that made this an instant bet was the fact that Utah's defense is number 1 in the nation in creating contested catches. No clean catches by opponents. That's a problem for Retzlaff, who is not accurate whatsoever. Give me Utah. Get all the points you can get. They're going to be in the round robin.
Colorado, Texas Tech. This is the one bad number I got this week. I kind of had a feeling, and I should have waited on Texas Tech. I know Colorado's a public team too. Right. Texas Tech also had a number of potential injuries, and this line has gone up. Maybe there's some news that I'm not privy to yet on the Texas Tech injury side on their defense, but I had to play the Red Raiders. I have to play Texas Tech here. I'll say, I mean, I just can't get to this number. I can't get to over a field goal, which I had to take at home. pretty good. It's not a great spot, just that they upset Iowa State, Colorado coming off of a bye. But I think Colorado's at the peak of its market value. Yes, they've been good. Yes, they're improving. The offensive line is improving a bit. The defense is improving a bit. They have some semblance of a rushing attack. It's not great, but they gives them some balance. But it's like, who's it really come against? Like the UCF performance was impressive. But I mean, just breaking down this schedule of what they've done. I mean, and they played UCF when KJ was still a quarterback.
Right.
He's since been benched. They beat Baylor at home in overtime when they got a Hail Mary. They also got a Hail Mary when they beat Cincinnati at home. And like the resume is, I think that there's still some flaws in this defense. I think Texas Tech will be able to move the ball. Baron Morton and Taj Brooks. Taj Brooks is going to get his on the ground. Does against most teams. But I think Baron Morton can move the ball efficiently against this Colorado secondary, especially like take advantage of the linebackers. There's some issues with coverage and the safeties. So I think this Colorado defense has improved a bit, but I still think it's overrated. And I think that Texas Tech ultimately can keep up here. I mean, I think that's basically what this comes down to. You have to pressure Morton without blitzing. He's been really bad under natural pressure. But against the blitz, but Colorado can't really generate pressure without blitzing. And against the blitz, Morton has been really good. So I think it's a decent matchup. Is Colorado going to score? Yeah. The Texas Tech defense is not any good. There could be some key injuries. They give up a ton of explosive plays through the air. That's not great against Shedeur Sanders and these receivers. But I can't get to this number. I mean, what? Texas Tech was about a field goal favorite against Cincinnati, against Arizona State at home. Field goal favorite. And I mean, I think like I have those teams, I don't know, four-ish points worse, 4.5 points worse, somewhere in that ballpark than Colorado. I just can't get to 3. So at over a field goal, I took it. By the way, the Red Raiders are 17-8-1 against the spread as a home dog, more than a field goal since 2005. Over that same span, is the least profitable road team of all college football. It's Colorado. 37-64-1 on the road, 36.6%. You get that big home field advantage, that altitude at home can sometimes inflate your rating when you hit the road. Special teams edge also to Texas Tech here. So if this is a close back and forth game, that could end up deciding it. So I had to take Texas Tech with the points. I can see the case for Colorado, but numbers wise, I'm rolling with the Red Raiders. What do you see here?
I would buy Texas Tech after this team. I wanted to take Texas Tech, but I knew that there would be money coming in on Colorado no matter what, and that's just where we're at in college football. They always have since Deion got there.
Yeah, it was such an oversight by me.
Texas Tech has an advantage in special teams that you mentioned. Texas Tech is going to be able to sit back there and throw the ball as much as they want. There's no pass rush being produced by Colorado. Colorado gives up too many explosive plays, which Texas Tech can do on the ground, which Colorado has been terrible at defending. There are things that Texas Tech does that bother me. They're 127th in tackling per PFF. They're also 129th in broken tackles allowed. That is not something you want on your side when Travis Hunter is standing in an open field trying to run with the ball. There are advantages for Texas Tech to score. I think they will score. I'm just going to try to scoop as many points as I can. So I can't say we're agreeing and going on the board. I don't know if it's done at 4 and 4.5. I don't know if it's going to go any farther, but I'm willing to sit back and let everybody scoop up Colorado.
Washington at Penn State. Let's save this one for later. I'll have this later at the quick tease. BC at home against Syracuse. I like BC. Took them on the money line. This Syracuse team is a walking fraud. I'm sorry. I can't believe they're going to beat. They
shouldn't have made overtime. They should.
Yeah. They should have lost to Vatek's backups at home. They're now 4-1 in one possession games, 2-0 in overtime. I can't believe they're going to beat me on my win total. And maybe if they lose this week and then lose at Cal, still get there. I'll be on Cal next week. They're also 14 of 19 on fourth down, even though they can't run the ball.
Right.
There's some regret. There's late down regression coming on both sides of the ball for Syracuse. They were in a fight into overtime last week. BC off of a bye. That should get them a bit healthier. They have 15 days to prepare here. I think they have the coaching edge from a schematic point of view as well. They should be able to get their run game going here against Syracuse, who struggles to set the edge. That means Castellanos can get going on the ground. That'll set up the play action, and Syracuse can get lost in the sauce in play action. And by the way, Castellanos nearly flawless with play action. 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, 80% adjusted completion rate. I think they're going to hit explosives, get the ground game going. It's a noon kick for Syracuse at BC after that big win to get them bowl eligible. I could see them coming out a bit flat. I think BC will have a great script here. And this is new staff, but we'll see. This is normally when Syracuse starts to fade. 10-22 against the spread as a conference road dog in the months of November and December since 2005, 31%. I played BC here. And by the way, Tom Brenneman's on the call. Castellanos is at quarterback. Come on now. BC.
There's a deep drive. I agree with you. We can put it on the board, although I think I would tell everybody and see if you agree.
We're going money line.
There's plenty of minus 125 out there. So let's go BC minus 125.
BC, by the way, also one of the I played earlier money line, and I agree. Boston College does not kick field goals, by the way, and I could see them like going for 2. Boston College on the season, they've played 8 games. Take a guess on how many field goal attempts they have.
1.
They're 1-1. They did attempt. They've also missed a couple extra points, so their kicking situation is not great. They lined up for 1, I think, and then had like a fumbled snap. So, yeah, like the kicking situation, even on extra points, is dicey. And I could see them going for 2. But yeah, I like BC. Anything you want to add? You want to add anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say that, the one stat that popped out to me here for Boston College, besides the fact that they're going to be able to create quality drives, get into scoring position, is the fact that they are 26th in creating broken or missed tackles. They have been very good in open space. Syracuse 126. They cannot tackle in open space. So even though people will tell you about success rate and EPA, tackling in space matters. It decides a lot of games. And in this one, it's hugely in favor of Boston College.
Tech hosting Clemson, excuse me. This is an injury game for me. They're Virginia Tech starting quarterback, Drones. Is he going to play?
Yeah.
They're starting running back, Tootin. Is he going to play? Their best corner as well. Brent Price said all 3 have a good chance. They're listed as questionable. So, I don't know. Do you see anything here? Does Syracuse bounce? Does Clemson bounce back?
I think the number's too high. I think the number should be about 3.5, not 6.5. And I think that 6.5 is built based upon Drones and Tootin. There is video out there that I don't think has got a lot of views of both Tootin and Drones practicing last night on a Wednesday night. Of course, it's like just drills where you're just throwing in an empty space. It's not like, full gear tackling or anything. But, that's the whole thing is when they are announced on an availability report, probably Friday night while we're all busy at 7 p.m. when they come through and they say that they're upgraded to probable, I think the 6.5 is going to move. I think it's going to move pretty fiercely, at least 4.5, 4. So if you're taking Virginia Tech now, it's because you think that the practicing on Wednesday night is going to extend to them playing on against Clemson.
Some other quarterback games, news games. Florida at Texas. Will DJ Lagway play? Is the big question mark. If he does play, how effective will he be? Texas laying 21.5 here. On the surface, it's a good spot for Texas. Get right spot. Florida coming off that like emotional effort against Georgia. I'm not sure. Do you have any updated news on Lagway? He practiced, I know, but he's still, I think, game time decision.
Yeah, so it was a soft tissue injury, and Napier he kind of compared it to a concussion, and he compared it to a hamstring. You just can't go until you can go. And there's certain tests that got to, it's a soft tissue injury. Couldn't give anything more about it. Didn't have a timetable on it. And they're ramping up
Why rush him back for this game is my question.
well, I mean, you could be fired any day by an interim AD. I mean, you want to do everything you can, even spare.
Well, he just said they just announced that he's going to be back next year. Do you see that?
Yeah, but I would still like to talk to our own sources here to find out how strong of a commitment that is, right? But I mean, they're going to rely on. I think the one thing they said about Aiden Warner is that he did not even show up on Florida's radar till OTAs in the summer. He hasn't taken any practice snaps until Graham Mertz was injured, so he's really only been practicing, literally only been practicing for like 3 weeks. And his backup, I believe, is Clay Mullen, who was the old quarterback for Colorado.
Clay Millen.
Clay Millen for Colorado State. I think really, if you want to play Florida, I wouldn't play Florida. And I think the biggest thing.
No, I would not either.
Yeah, I wrote this up for action. The biggest thing that stuck out to me is that Isaiah Bond is practicing, and Isaiah Bond is probably going to be back at wideout. And that is huge trouble for a Florida defense that is going to start two freshman corners that got thrown into the fire last week against Georgia because of injury. These are not starters. These are not second stringers. These are guys that were literally just recruited a few months ago. Two corner freshman starters. I like Texas's team total over 34.5. Texas is so good in finishing drives and in red zone. Sark's got that figured out. You just can't. And what's Quinn Ewers? By the way, did you see Quinn Ewers last game? Like, average depth of target 4 yards. It was all flares. I went into the route tree of his last game. It's like, it's all flares. It's all dumps off to the flats. I think they're going to do that here and just let Bond cook.
Yeah, I think Florida's in trouble here. By the way, Clay Millen, he was like a former 4-star. He started at Colorado State for a full year, and he lost the third string battle to a freshman that never got a snap at Yale, who was ranked 1,967th in the class of 2023.
Yep.
Talk about a fall off. Yeah, I mean, Warner, he tried. He didn't throw a pick six to save the cup, to ensure the cover at least, but he was 7 of 22 for 66 yards against Georgia. 6 of their first 8 drives were 3 and outs. So, yeah, there's trouble. I think this is a blowout. Miami at Georgia Tech. More quarterback uncertainty. Does Haynes King play off the bye? If he does, I like Georgia Tech catching double digits. You have a coach who's an underdog god, especially catching this type of number. And in Brent Key, Georgia Tech should also get their, I believe, it's still a question, but their stud linebacker, Necroman, back in the middle. He's missed the past few games, but Haynes King is huge here. I mean, just anyone can kind of go toe-to-toe with Miami because their defense has so many holes. I also love Georgia Tech's offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner. I think we'll have a really good script and game plan here. So, yeah, this is all King watch. Like, he was named captain, but they Brent Key came out today and said it's still going to be a game time decision. So I don't know. I was hearing like from people that are close to the program that he's not going to play early in the week, and like, so I don't know if this is what's going on. But I like Georgia Tech if Kings plays, and they're still getting double digits. So like the market doesn't leak it. Yeah. If you see it going, yeah, I probably got word that he's going to play. But if he doesn't, I'm probably passing.
Yeah, I think if he plays, you got to play the over. There's nothing in Georgia Tech's numbers that tell me they're going to be able to create any havoc on.
Well, they can't defend the pass either.
Yeah, they can't defend the pass, and there's nothing in the secondary numbers. Plus, these two teams outside the top 100 in tackling. If Haynes King is playing, the over is the play. Of course, it's going to get hit. Key number in this area, it's actually I think a top 10 key number in totals is 65. So if you get a sniff of it, the over is where I would go.
And another quarterback question. Army, Bryson Daly. I played North Texas. This, I don't know. Tea leaves say Daly's out.
Yep.
Market just got hit with North Texas money. Also, if he plays, is he fully healthy? It's a foot injury. He's kind of important to be running around and planning. They have a bye too, and then Notre Dame. It's like if he's not fully healthy, they might just think, hey, let's try to get this win without him. The problem is, I don't think they can. That offense was ugly last week. Ugly, ugly. They did put one touchdown drive together, but it was when Air Force's nose tackle went out and they don't have another one. And they just ran it up the middle like 5 times in a row. But Dwayne Coleman, he threw for 48 yards. He only ran for 2.8 yards per rush. And this isn't an elite. I know Air Force knows the triple option, but you could tell. Big difference. I think it's like a touchdown drop off between the two. So if Daly doesn't go, I mean, I make North Texas a favorite in this game. And Army also, they haven't played anyone. 145th strength of schedule. Who's their defense played? Here are the who they played. If I go on my power ratings for offenses, the average offense is outside the top 110, none in the top 90, and that doesn't even include Lehigh. Air Force, UAB, Rice, ECU, FAU, Tulsa, and Temple. Those are some of the worst offenses in the country. 4 of those 7 teams either started a backup or have since benched their starter in that game. And yet, Army's still outside the top 80 in success rate against the run and pass. This is a top 20-ish North Texas offense, statistically adjusted for opponent. They can throw at anyone. By the way, Army also still regression coming. They're plus 11 in turnovers. They've recovered 7 of their 8 fumbles. North Texas, by the way, has only recovered 1 fumble on the whole year. They're -5 turnover margin. Also, red zone, 4th downs. Eventually, someone's going to score in the red zone. Someone's going to get a 4th down against Army. They've been really fortunate against an easy schedule. The North Texas D stinks, but at least they have a bye to prepare for this. And I don't think Daly will be fully healthy, and he might not play. So, yeah, I took North Texas here.
Yeah, I think it's a live betting game if Army has their quarterback at full strength. So it's really just injury related for me. Why I've hesitated here. I think North Texas is the play, and that's the reason you've seen the drop in the spread. But at the same time, I would suggest a North Texas +4. And if you get positive news on the Army quarterback situation, this becomes a live betting game. I mean, it's a total of 64. And frankly, I don't know who's stopping who if Daly's playing. So, I mean, it should be a lot of points.
If Army was at full strength, this thing would just be a pinball machine, this game. I am hoping that Porter plays for North Texas, the running back, the Kansas State transfer. Otherwise, they're down to like their 5th running back on their depth chart, but they're healthy at wide receiver now. They have good ones. And Rutgers has been carving. I mean, this passing offense has been electric all year. Army has not seen a passing offense like this. By the way, quick reminder, make sure you check out the Group of 5 guys, Mike Ionella, Mike Calabrese. They do the Group of 5 preview each and every week. They do a tremendous job every Wednesday right here, Big Bets on Campus. Also, go to our YouTube channel. Do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, BBOC. Help us grow the channel. Even if you don't watch YouTube, just go there, hit it. If you'd rather listen than look at my ugly mug, just go hit subscribe, hit like on the video. That helps us grow the channel, which we're trying to do. We do appreciate that. All right, time for some trash. All right, baby. It's time for some trash. 8-4 on the year. Colin is 1-0, and Colin will have his second trash pick in just a moment. Rutgers. I'm jumping off my Minnesota bandwagon. I think it's time. We've hit the peak of the market value in Minnesota. They've been playing well, but they're now bowl eligible. Going to Rutgers, noon kick. Rutgers off a bye, should be healthier. Minnesota Penn State on deck. This is a sleepy spot if I've ever seen one. They've also benefited from like some good situational spots, some opponent injuries, and they've won 4 straight. The 3 have come by 1 possession. Rutgers, I think, has bottomed out. Rutgers, their run D's been so bad, but Minnesota hasn't really been great running the ball. And you can attack Minnesota on the ground. I'm hoping Menungai plays. They are coming off a bye. Gophers also plus 12 turnover margin on the year. There's some maybe regression coming there. Shiano really good off of the bye and with extra time to prepare, with 10 plus days to prepare, 12-5 against the spread, covering by 10 points per game. I'm going to wait for the 7, but I'm okay at 6.5. Yeah, I like Rutgers. I think it's a great buy low, sell high scheduling spot on the Scarlet Knights. So I think you get a good effort from. I think this is the time to sell Minnesota.
I like the under a lot better, but I don't like Rutgers at all.
Okay. Well, then you disagree.
Okay.
That's why it's in the trash segment. USF against Navy. I think USF, number one, they get an extra day to prepare. Navy, third straight game away from home. And the third one, they were in this huge delay until late at night at Rice. USF's run D is very, very good. They can slow down Navy on the ground. I mean, like, very good. And what are they? I think USF's like top 15 in EPA per rush allowed and rush success rate on defense. Their secondary is bad, but I'm not sure that Horvath is healthy with that thumb injury. And they look bad against Rice last week. And the mids were great early on, but they benefited from like the element of surprise with their new look offense. Hasn't been great the past 2 weeks. They also haven't played anyone. Their schedule's still outside the top 120. We saw them play Notre Dame and Memphis, who did whatever they wanted on offense. South Florida's strength of schedule much better, 50 spots higher. Yep. Navy's still pretty fortunate overall. Red zone turnovers. I think there's more coming. And USF they haven't left the state of Florida since September. I think they're trending up. This is the team that has won 2 straight. They went to Archie at quarterback because Brown got hurt his foot. He struggled early, but he's starting to pick up the offense. But USF, the strength of their offense is their backfield. Navy, even against a bad schedule, 120th rush success rate. USF offensive line, they made some changes a couple weeks ago in the interior that have really paid off. Their offensive line is playing a lot better. It was a mess early on in the season. So I like the Bulls.
Yeah.
+3 or better at home.
Agreeance. Put it down. Top 20 rushing success rate, top 20 line yards, both on defense. That's enough to go ahead and stop that Navy attack.
They also can get pressure, and Horvath, his numbers fall off a cliff when under pressure. And USF can generate pressure with their D-line.
USF has a major advantage in special teams. 10th per SP plus to Navy's 111th.
All right. Next, I think we might disagree here. I'm going with UVA at Pitt, catching 7.5. UVA got blown out by North Carolina in their last game. But what I don't think people realize is that they had all these offensive linemen out. They were down to their third string center. They had one of their other offensive linemen. It was a disaster. They couldn't block. Well, all those guys are back. They're coming off a bye. They might get some key defenders back as well. Pitt, I just haven't been impressed them all year. I called last week the Fraud Bowl. Well, the fraud ended up being Pitt. They got blown out by SMU. They started 7-0. They should have lost to Cincy and West Virginia. It's not like those teams have been world beaters. They came back from double-digit deficits late. They beat Cal at home by 2. They should have lost that game. And then they beat Syracuse because they got a million pick sixes. Their other wins were against Kent State, Youngstown State, and UNC. Am I impressed with that resume? No. So I also I've talked about this before. I like to back top 20 teams off of a loss in top 20 games. People they're going to be angry. Usually overvalued, and the opposite true. You can come out a bit flat. 42% against the spread historically as a favorite of more than a touchdown. 43% against the spread overall. I think UVA will come out here with some fire. You have to attack Pitt with explosive passes. Well, Calandri is going to get the start. That's what Virginia can do. Pitt also lost their best safety to injury last week. I think it's a pretty big drop-off to the backup. Could give up even more explosives. And I just think Pitt might be sleepy here. They lost that game. That ended their season. College football playoff, ACC championship game. Got Clemson on deck. Give me the 7.5 against Nardog, who he is 6-15 against the spread as a favorite of 6 or more points in ACC play, failing to cover by 6 or more points. And by the way, Holstein, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 10 big time throws, 20 turnover worthy plays. There's some picks coming. They've even been lucky there. I know you're on Pitt. Are you going head to head at 7.5 or no?
I should just because I like Pitt that much. The problem is I took a much better number earlier in the week. Listen, Pitt defends the rush really well. They're fifth in defensive line yards. Virginia's not going to be able to run. They have
Calandria bombs. Virginia ain't running here.
yeah, and there's an answer for that too. I mean, right now Pitt is 30th in contested catch rate. They're going to be able to swat a couple of those 50-yard, those arm punts that Calandria likes to throw up in the air. So
Yeah, top safety out. What is Pitt EPA per pass
I
allowed?
can't believe I'm here
good.
trying to defend Pitt. I don't want to be in this position defending Pitt, but come on.
No,
Sure,
not putting it down head to head though.
I would if it was 7.
Okay. Next one. This one we're gonna get scary for the last two. Maryland. Oh God. Maryland plus 25. I know Lanning, you better not do this to me again. I know Lanning did it last week, but the rest of the year, they just parked the bus. I mean, they did it against UCLA, Michigan State. They drilled Illinois and Purdue, and both teams still had a chance to cover late. I mean, Maryland's catching 25 here. Illinois, who I faded, I played Oregon minus 21. Still to sweat it because they parked the bus. I have Maryland better than Illinois. Now I'm getting 26, and Maryland's coming off of a bye. By the way, Maryland, they got blown out in their last game against Minnesota. They were down all of their corners. They should be healthier in the secondary this week. And they had another one of their corners get thrown out in like the first quarter for targeting. Like the secondary was a disaster. I do worry about the offensive line here. The Maryland offensive line is so bad against the Oregon defensive front, but Maryland has some playmakers. Maryland's run D is actually like competent enough too, much better than Illinois to like stop Oregon a bit on the ground, and especially like if just the lead is big, that'll help in like preventing them from running it up. Loxley's horrendous in these spots. Like he's 8-18 against the spread as a conference road dog. I just have to take this because my assumption, like Oregon, they have no incentive. Also, their top receiver's out. The starting guard is out. So yeah, Maryland off a bye. I think they'll show up here. This one, it hurts. It hurt to put in. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, after that shit last week, you're on your own, brother. I mean, that I've had enough of Lanning. That one hurt.
I'm a sick man for doing that. Yeah. Glutton for punishment. I mean, Tez Johnson's going to be out, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I thought he might be done.
No, I don't think he's done for the year, but
okay.
I think it was Lanning gave like a Gary Bryant Jr. might be back, but I think Lanning said like he expects him to be back. I don't know. We'll talk about more of that next week. And one more, Nevada against Boise. Genty's going to get his. Nevada's D stinks, but Nevada's kind of like Service Academy-esque. Like they're slow. They can shrink this game, and they're coming off 3 straight losses. They're kind of unlucky. Like they had injuries, right? Like Lewis was out for part of one game and didn't start the other. They were minus 21 total net yards versus Fresno, plus 118 versus Colorado State, minus 15 versus Hawaii. Like those scores were pretty misleading. They should be healthier this week overall. And they're an intriguing team getting 24.5 to me. Unlike San Diego State, like Nevada's just going to grind this down. They go slow. They're top 25 nationally in rush success rate, EPA per rush. Boise, 95th EPA per allowed per rush. Like you can run on Boise. Lewis's legs against the defense that can get after you, I think are important here. I think this is a well-coached team. I hope that Danielson doesn't try to run this up. Like he has done some weird like 4th down things late, and the playoff beauty pageant he talked about. But I'm taking over 24 here. I think this is like a Service Academy-esque type dog in this spot.
Yeah, if it was 24, I'd probably go against you here. Nevada, I love against teams that love to pass. They are top 5 nationally in creating contested catches. They've been so good in the secondary ball hawking. It's not really what's going to happen here. Nevada's outside the top 100 in defending the rush. Genty's going to go a little wild here. By the way, Boise all of a sudden now is the #1 team in the nation in offensive finishing drives. That's going to be a problem. Special teams, Nevada's 130th.
Oh, the special teams are a worry. They're bad.
That's a problem. And broken tackles allowed, Nevada 134th dead last. So I'll go opposite. We need a trash opposite here. Take me off that damn Minnesota Rutgers thing and put me on this one. This is the one I'm going head to head with you on.
All right, and then you have some trash.
What,
Kennesaw State. You're going
what
back to your Al gifts. I can't agree with you on here, but make your case.
find me another
You're
national
fading
podcast.
pickles in Minor Nation, huh?
Boy, they're gonna hate me. I got the helmet behind me and everything. They listen. What other national podcast is talking about Kennesaw and UTEP? Listen, Scotty Waldron came out and he said we got to see how Skylar Locklear is doing. He's the one that took a massive lick on CUSA midweek a couple weeks ago. One of the worst targets I've seen in my life. Sounds like he's almost through every test for concussion protocol. He has one left to go. I guess we'll know at the end of Friday. But if he can't go, it's JP Pickles time to run the Pickle Cat package. Last week, 18 of 33 passing against Middle Tennessee. He did not have a touchdown, did have an interception, and he was just 4 yards per carry in 19 attempts for Pickles. And I think maybe the book is out on JP Pickles. Maybe teams are learning how to defend that because his rushing totals are going down. His yards per carry are going down the more that everybody sees him. The Owls, why did they beat Liberty? They are 8th in the nation defensively in broken missed tackle rate per Sports Info Solutions. The defense does not miss on the ground. That is a huge reason why the Owls had a monster win in Conference USA. And the number of missed tackles against a Liberty team that is heavy on the rush, you know how many missed tackles they had? 5. They're not going to miss JP Pickles. They're not going to miss anything on the ground here. And if UTEP's going to have Locklear go, Skylar Locklear here go, it's a little bit different of a handicap, but I don't think it's going to matter. I like Kennesaw State here in the points. A game that I think should be a pick.
Good luck to you. I will not be joining. Before we get to 3 and out, how about some nowhere fast? This is a Friday night game. We'll talk about Friday nights in just a second, but we'll get a head start with San Diego State hosting New Mexico. Let's see where we stand here. New Mexico, San Diego State 2.5 point favorite, over under 66.5. Over or under here?
Under all the way. My total for this is somehow in the 50s. I really wanted to take the under initially here, but I want to see if it steams some more in the 60s. 65 is your buy point as it's going down just a little bit. Both these teams about 24 seconds per play, so that's a little bit scary. Rush explosives is the path for New Mexico here. Terrible offensive finishing drives rank at 80th. So if they get into scoring position, they probably won't get anything. But keep in mind the strength of schedule for New Mexico is 114. So I don't take their offensive numbers that heavy. I don't take their explosiveness that heavy. And San Diego State is all explosive, 0 methodical drives for this offense. They proved it last week. 11th in rush EPA, and New Mexico is 80th in rush EPA allowed. San Diego State is bottom 20 nationally in offensive momentum killer. One of my favorite stats this time of year. Tell me what your offense does to shoot themselves in the foot. Flags, missed field goals, turnovers, negative plays. San Diego State is near the bottom in the nation offensive momentum killer. It's a problem for both teams. I like the under here. I think that total is way too high. It's 65 is your last call on the under.
All right, with no Arkansas football, Arkansas on a bye. Let's go 3 and out. All right, first down, Friday night lights. Let's go through these quickly. Cal at Wake. My numbers say Wake, home dog, especially over a touchdown. I'm afraid of the Wake secondary a bit, but I like Clawson off a bye here. Team's still fighting, playing well lately. I like Wake. Agree, disagree there?
I am not playing this because there are 2 starting corners that are going to be out for Wake. Jamar Glasker at Capone Blue. That would be a big. I
do worry about their secondary.
Yeah, I worry about the secondary, so I'm out.
Iowa at UCLA. Iowa 6.5 point favorite, total 44.5. UCLA playing better of late. Iowa potentially upgraded at quarterback with Sullivan. This is a tough one for me. At 7, I won UCLA. Lead under as well. I think you like Iowa.
I do like Iowa. I would take them up to 6 or 6.5. I wouldn't do it at the 7. But I mean, look, UCLA is 111th in allowing rush explosive. Caleb Johnson's going to have a field day here. 6 TDs in the last 2 games. Nearly 25% of every Caleb Johnson rush goes for at least 10 yards. That's going to be an issue here. So what UCLA is going to do, they're going to try to pass with Ethan Garbers. 6 to 10 big time throw to turnover worthy plays. It's not going to really work against the Iowa top 40 defense and creating contested catches. Also, UCLA is not going to run the ball. They're dead last in rushing success rate. There's just a massive advantage for Iowa here in quality drives and finishing drives on both sides of the ball. Fundamentals, special teams. I think it's all there for the Hawkeyes.
Rice at Memphis. I think Rice is getting hit again right now.
Yeah.
Memphis has some injuries at receiver.
Yep.
I also where's Memphis mentally, physically? Uh, like they suffered that second loss there. They're done in the AAC race. You had some questionable quotes from Ryan Silverfield, like
Yes.
talking about man coverage and oh God, I don't know what's going on with that team. Rice, meanwhile, I think is pointing up and they've been playing much better out of the bye. EJ Warner back, defense playing better. I worry about their I I don't know. They're still sitting at 6 losses. Like this is a game. They win this game. Man, they're might go bowling. They got UAB
Yeah.
and then South Florida at home. I think you get a really game effort here from Rice, who I think is trending up. Memphis, I think could come out really flat here after last week, and then they have some injuries as well. Obviously liked it better at 10.5, but I think it's Rice or nothing where it's at now.
Rice is winning out because I've got over 6.5, and it was one of my favorite win totals. Now they're just going to get to 6. I wanted Memphis initially. I saw you put a play in on the app. I paused. I wanted to go see what's going on with Memphis. Read all the quotes from Silverfield, which were quite interesting. There was no problems in the loss last week for Memphis when it comes to an offensive perspective. Hennigan had 4 TDs. The offense was humming. The defense was atrocious, absolutely lit up. And there's no
They
answer.
don't know what to do, like coverage wise, too. Like that's
Right.
that's worrisome. By the way, Blankensee is one of the best receivers. He did get hurt. He
That's
got
what I
hurt
was.
celebrating. I don't know. He might play, but
Yeah, Blankensee is the big name for Memphis here. You're going to see movement in the market for Demir Blankensee. Leads the team in receiving touchdowns. I believe he's like 260 snaps out of the slot. He is really important to Hennigan.
all right, let's go. Second down. Favorite overdog. All right, for those new here, that's our favorite. I hinted at this earlier. I like Penn State. God, can't believe I'm betting Penn State as a favorite again after that Illinois game. This is a game usually James Franklin covers. Now, I already said I don't really like betting top 20 teams after a loss. I usually think they're overvalued, but I make this over 2 touchdowns. And I don't think this is a good spot for Washington. By the way, we were on Washington last week, but they got pretty fortunate. 3-0 turnover battle. They 2 fourth down stops late. They were outgained by 100 yards. And they're traveling to the East Coast again. We've already seen them travel to Rutgers, Iowa, Indiana. And by the way, against Indiana and Iowa, they lost by 2 touchdowns apiece and backup quarterback against Indiana. Why do I like this, though? I think the Penn State defensive line can dominate. The Washington offensive line, force a turnover or 2. And more importantly, the strength of the Washington defense is their coverage. Well, the weakness of the Penn State offense is their wide receivers. That's kind of neutered. You can run on Washington. Penn State's going to be able to run here, just like Indiana did in the second half. They threw it 1 time in the second half. So I like Penn State to bounce back. Tough spot for Washington. At home, primetime, whiteout game. I think they win this by at least 2 touchdowns. Finish a fucking drive for once, James Franklin. Jesus.
God, how was there no touchdowns last week? I'm going to go Ohio State for my overdog here. I believe the College Football Playoff Committee has created a beauty contest for teams that are ranked 5th to 11th that are not in the pole position to win their conference championship. Now, Ohio State can definitely get to the Big Ten championship, but in case they don't win and they fall to 2 losses, they need serious style points. And against Purdue is a place where a lot of teams are getting style points. Notre Dame had 66 earlier on them this year, and the last time Purdue went on the road against the Big Ten, they gave up 50 burgers to the dynamic offenses of Illinois and Wisconsin. This is a name it game, and Ohio State is in a beauty pageant. I think I put 37.5 down on the money and then put it in the app. I think it's at 38. I buy it there.
Third down, favorite underdog money line or underdog money line parlay. I'm going to go North Texas. Talked about this earlier, and especially with uncertainty at the quarterback position, which I think makes this even more valuable. Where are you going?
Oh, Kansas. You and I talked about it. You and I agree on it. Kansas, it's not the number that's the problem here. It's the direction of these 2 teams. Iowa State is struggling on defense. Everybody gets a free score on their first drive against them. Meanwhile, Kansas in the running game, Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels are absolutely tearing teams apart. Kansas.
All right, 4th down is now the board review. Head-to-head Nevada versus Boise. We're 2-2 on the head-to-head. Agree. We are 21-12. We have Kansas, Utah, BC moneyline, and USF this week. Trash is 8-4. And seeing it is like, it makes me sick sometimes. Like seeing Virginia, Maryland, Nevada, and Rutgers.
Maryland.
USF, I think, is my favorite of the trash bunch, but they're never my favorites. And then Colin putting his perfect 1-0 trash record on the line with Kennesaw State against UTEP. That'll do it for us. Got through, I don't know, 25 games in an hour and a half. Hopefully you took some valuable nuggets. If you did, make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy, you know the deal. Leave a 5-star review. I don't care what you say. You can just say garbage, trash, whatever. Thanks to Colin, as always, for joining me. Thanks to our producer, Matt Mitchell, on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Don't forget, Monday morning, we'll be back with the weekend recap. 959 bad beat for the voicemail. Don't forget to call in, yell, scream at me for all my bad calls. And then we will be back with a new BCS on Tuesday, Group of 5 guys. Again, make sure you check them out. They'll be back Wednesday. And Colin will be back to Week 12 college football betting preview. Let's stay hot and have a weekend. Good luck on all of your wagers. And we'll see you Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern for the live show. Cheers.
Peace out.